80,000 people, one knockout match, and a stadium so loud it barely needed a scoreboard to tell you something huge was happening. This was a World Cup quarterfinal, the kind of match where careers, legacies, and entire tournaments hang on a single mistake. Two European heavyweights, a spot in the semifinals on the line, and a stadium packed with fans who'd traveled from across the world to watch it happen live. And in the middle of that tension, cameras and phones in the crowd kept drifting toward one face that had nothing to do with either team on the pitch. Within hours, clips and photos of her at the match were circulating across social media. Not because of anything happening on the field, but because of who was sitting in the stands watching it. So who was she, and why did a football crowd suddenly start talking about a pop star instead of the score? Let's get into it. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly who showed up to that World Cup quarterfinal, what made the moment spread across the internet, and what it reveals about her as a genuine, unfiltered public figure. Not a performer, just a fan in the crowd. Who is Lisa, for viewers who don't follow K-pop? If you don't follow K-pop, here's the fast version. Lisa, full name Lalisa Manobal, is a rapper, dancer, and singer from Buriram, Thailand, who trained for years in Seoul before debuting in 2016 as part of Blackpink, now one of the best-selling girl groups in music history. Beyond the group, she's built one of the most successful solo careers in K-pop. Her debut studio album, Alter Ego, landed in the top 10 of the Billboard 200 and topped the Billboard Top Album Sales chart. She's collaborated with artists like Rosalia, Doja Cat, and Megan Thee Stallion, made her acting debut in HBO's The White Lotus, and became the first K-pop artist to headline a Las Vegas residency set for later this year at the Coliseum at Caesar's Palace. She's also no stranger to this exact tournament. Weeks earlier, she performed live at the World Cup's opening ceremony in Los Angeles, and she's been part of Nike's global campaign for the 2026 World Cup as one of the brand's ambassadors. In other words, football fans encountering her for the first time weren't looking at a random celebrity in the crowd. They were looking at one of the most recognizable performers on the planet. She just happened to be in the stands this time, instead of on a stage. Her numbers alone tell part of the story. She's one of the most followed K-pop artists on Instagram, with tens of millions of followers tracking her every move. In 2024, she stepped further into independence by founding her own management company, Loud, taking direct ownership of her recordings rather than operating solely under her original label. That combination, massive existing fame, plus a newly independent career built specifically for global crossover, is part of why she's become such a familiar face at exactly these kinds of major Western cultural moments. From award shows to fashion weeks to, now, a World Cup stadium. The match, setting the scene. The match itself needs no exaggeration to sound dramatic. On July 10th, Spain and Belgium met in a World Cup quarterfinal at Los Angeles Stadium, with a semifinal spot against France on the line. Spain arrived off the back of eliminating Portugal in the previous round, while Belgium had just knocked out co-hosts United States in a convincing round of 16 win. Both sides had every reason to believe they belonged in this fixture. Spain went ahead first through Fabian Ruiz, before Belgium clawed level through Charles de Ketelaere. Belgium's night got harder from there. Captain Yuri Tielemans was already missing through injury, and starting goalkeeper Thibaut Courtois had to be helped off the pitch in visible pain during the second half, replaced by substitute Sene Lammens. The match stayed level deep into the closing minutes, the kind of tense, back-and-forth knockout football the World Cup is built on. Then, in the 88th minute, substitute Mikel Merino pounced on a spilled rebound to score the winner, sending Spain through to the semifinals and ending Belgium's tournament. It marked the 23rd all-time meeting between the two football nations, and their third at a World Cup specifically. A rivalry stretching back decades settled once again in Spain's favor. It was, by every account, one of the most dramatic finishes of the entire knockout stage. And somewhere in the stands watching all of it unfold was Lisa, the moment the camera found her. Photos and short clips believed to show her at the match began circulating online, taken from a suite overlooking the pitch, the packed stadium, and the two teams lining up visible behind her. In the images, she's dressed head to toe in black Nike pieces, a cropped jacket, a lace-detailed skirt, fitting for someone whose partnership with the brand has made her a face of its current World Cup campaign. Some of the shots are candid, caught mid-laugh, biting her finger playfully, twirling to show off the outfit with the stadium lights and crowd behind her. Others look more posed, the kind of quick photo you'd expect a celebrity to take between moments of actually watching the game. What comes through in nearly every image isn't a performance. It's the small human details. A genuine smile, a relaxed pose, someone who looks like she's simply enjoying being at a huge sporting event, the same as anyone else lucky enough to have a seat with that view. Even her styling choices seemed to lean into the moment rather than away from it. The Nike pieces doubling as a subtle nod to her role in the tournament's broader campaign, without looking like a deliberate marketing appearance. That's really the core of why this spread the way it reportedly did. There was no stage, no choreography, no scripted appearance. Just a global pop star, seemingly caught being an actual fan at one of the biggest matches of the tournament. It's worth pointing out how different this looked from the way most people are used to seeing her. A few weeks earlier, cameras caught her performing under stadium lights, in full choreography, in front of the same kind of crowd. This time, the setting looked almost identical. The packed stands, the massive screens, the roar of the audience, but the context was completely reversed. She wasn't the show. She was part of the audience watching one. Why it went viral. Part of what made this spread so quickly is simple. It sits at the exact intersection of two enormous, largely separate audiences. Football fans, watching a knockout match, suddenly found themselves looking up a K-pop star they may never have encountered otherwise. And K-pop fans, scrolling for any update on Lisa, suddenly found themselves paying close attention to a Spain-Belgium World Cup quarterfinal. There's also something to be said for the authenticity of it. Unscripted celebrity moments, a genuine reaction, a candid photo, a famous face doing something as ordinary as watching a match, tend to travel further online than heavily produced content, precisely because they feel real. Fans across social media reportedly picked up on exactly that. The sense that this wasn't a brand appearance dressed up as spontaneity, but an actual person enjoying an actual event. Compare that to a typical celebrity sighting at a major event, which often comes wrapped in visible security, staged photo ops, or an obvious promotional angle. What made this feel different, based on how it was received, was the absence of all that. Just a famous person in a crowd, seemingly there to watch football like everyone else around her. And there's a simpler explanation too, one that has nothing to do with football or K-pop specifically. People like watching genuine excitement. A famous face clearly having a good time at a massive event is the kind of clip that crosses fandom lines almost automatically because everyone, regardless of what they usually follow, recognizes that feeling. There's also the matter of timing. This wasn't just any match. It was a World Cup quarterfinal decided by a dramatic, last-minute goal, already primed to be one of the most discussed games of the tournament regardless of who was in the crowd. Attaching a viral celebrity sighting to a match that was already generating enormous attention on its own meant the clip had two separate audiences actively searching for World Cup content at the exact same moment, rather than just one. The internet reacts. Once the images started circulating, the response online followed a pretty familiar good-natured pattern. Fan accounts moved quickly to compile every angle of the photos, some setting them to music, others simply captioning them with excitement at seeing her in an unexpected setting. Football-focused accounts, many encountering her for the first time, reportedly asked the exact same question in comment sections and group chats. Who is she, and why does the crowd seem more interested in her than the match itself? That curiosity, in turn, sent plenty of football fans searching her name for the first time, leading some straight to her performance at the tournament's own opening ceremony weeks earlier. K-pop fans, for their part, leaned into the crossover with plenty of good humor, joking about football fans suddenly discovering their girl, while also expressing quiet pride at seeing her recognized in a completely different cultural space. Little of the online reaction, by most accounts, carried any negativity. It read, overwhelmingly, as two fandoms bumping into each other and having fun with it. If anything, the tone across most platforms leaned closer to celebration than debate. The internet, for once, seemingly agreeing that a pop star enjoying a great football match was simply a wholesome thing to see. Even accounts with no prior interest in either K-pop or this specific matchup found themselves reposting the images, less because of who she was, and more because the photos themselves were just genuinely fun to look at. Lisa, football, and crossover fandom. Moments like this aren't unique to Lisa, or even to this World Cup. Major sporting events have become one of the most reliable places for exactly this kind of crossover. A musician, actor, or public figure spotted in the crowd, instantly pulling their own fanbase into a conversation about a sport or event they might never have engaged with otherwise. What makes these moments stick, though, is how human they are. A celebrity performing on a stage is doing their job, polished, rehearsed, exactly as expected. A celebrity sitting in a stadium suite reacting to a football match like anyone else in the building is doing something almost nobody gets to see, existing normally in public without a script. That's arguably the real value of these crossover moments. They don't just create a fun clip. They build small, temporary bridges between fan communities that otherwise rarely overlap. football fans getting a friendly introduction to K-pop's biggest stars, and K-pop fans getting a reminder that their favorite artist's influence stretches into completely unrelated corners of global culture. It also says something about how big this specific World Cup has become as a cultural event, not just a sporting one. This tournament already blurred those lines deliberately, with pop performers built into its opening ceremonies and a first-ever halftime show planned for the final. A pop star simply attending a match as a fan is in some ways the most organic version of a trend FIFA itself has been actively encouraging all summer. Sports and global pop culture sharing the exact same stage, whether that stage is a pitch, a halftime show, or just a seat in the stands. It's a reminder, too, that in 2026, the biggest cultural moments rarely stay contained to one industry. A World Cup quarterfinal doesn't need a pop star in the crowd to matter. Spain and Belgium proved that on the pitch. But when the two worlds do collide, even briefly and unintentionally, the resulting attention tends to outlast the match itself, long after the final whistle and the scoreline have faded from the headlines. What this moment says about her public appeal. Strip away the football context, and what's really being reacted to here is fairly simple, genuine likability. The clips and photos that spread weren't built around a scandal or a controversy. They spread because she looked, by every visible account, like someone having a great time, relaxed, playful, unmistakably herself. That's not nothing. Plenty of public figures struggle to come across as approachable outside of a controlled setting. What this moment suggests, at least based on the reaction it generated, is that her appeal isn't limited to fans who already follow her music. It extends to anyone who happens to catch her being genuinely herself, even for a few seconds, in a crowd of 80,000 strangers. It also fits a broader pattern that's followed her career for years now. Time and again, her most talked about moments haven't come from carefully staged campaigns, but from small, human flashes. An unscripted smile, a candid photo, a genuine laugh caught between poses. This World Cup moment slots neatly into that same category. Not a headline she planned, but one she simply happened to walk into by showing up somewhere as herself. At the end of the day, this wasn't really a story about football or about K-pop. It was a story about the small, unplanned moments that end up connecting people who'd otherwise never cross paths. A packed stadium, a dramatic last-minute goal, and one recognizable face who reminded two very different fandoms that they were, for one night, watching the exact same thing. That's the real charm of moments like this. Sports have always had a way of pulling unexpected people into the same shared experience, and every so often, the internet gets to watch that happen in real time. A reminder that even in a stadium of 80,000 strangers, the moments that end up traveling the furthest are usually the smallest, most human ones. If you enjoyed this one, subscribe for more stories at the intersection of music, sports, and internet culture. And drop a comment letting us know your own favorite unexpected celebrity sports moment. We might just cover it next.